KLJXLP Flagstaff, you are listening to the Rock Revival with Emma Keider
and Courtney Issar.
Today we are here with a very special and talented musician who was one of the founding members of the Moody Blues, and he was also the guitarist in the band Wings with Paul and Linda McCartney. We are, of course, talking about the legendary Denny Laine, a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee and a musician who inspired so much music and is a big part of rock and roll history. How are you today, Denny?
Oh, well, I'm a lot better after that introduction.
I'm glad we got to boost your ego.
Yeah, definitely did.
Great,
that's awesome. So Denny Laine is performing at the Museum Club right here in Flagstaff on March 9th and is currently on tour around the U.S. So Denny, with the tour you are on right now, what are you featuring song-wise from all of the different bands you've been a part of?
Well, the thing that I'm doing down there is going to be a solo show, so that will be even more of a selection of songs from all the different, parts of my career. If you like. But I've been on tour doing a band show where I've been doing the Band on the Run album,
Okay.
the first Moody Blues album, which I was actually on. So I've got two shows, but the one they're going to see down there is the solo show, and it's songs and stories. So. I've got a general outline of songs, obviously, the Wings stuff, some of the old Moody's, and some of my solo stuff. But it'll be audience participation kind of thing, and it's fun. People
Right.
like it.
Yeah. What is so important about still performing these songs live for audiences?
Well, first of all, the appreciation.
Right.
People, it's nice that people appreciate it. It's great that I've got a lot of younger people, getting in touch about the music.
Yes, we love you.
It goes across the board, yeah. So all of that, and of course the stories behind the recording and the writing and all that thing, and a bit of name dropping, of course.
That's so awesome.
You always do that, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I like the audience thing, because they're going to come back at me with questions and stuff like that, which when you're doing an actual show in a theatre, anybody who talks back to you, we call it heckling.
So yeah, that's really special. So you're from Birmingham, and what was it like growing up there, and how did the city influence your passion for music?
Well, Birmingham was a work town. It was a blue-collar situation. My old man, they all worked in the factories up there, and this was after the war. And, of course, you're encouraged to do what the hell you wanted to do, because that was it. Go out there and make a living. So a lot of us got into music. It was a big music scene, basically copying a lot of stuff that we heard from America. We picked up on Radio Luxembourg, which is called AFM, the American Forces Network in Germany.
Okay.
So we kind of took a lot of our influences from that.
Yeah.
As we did early television. A lot of American television came to England in those days. So, we there were a lot of bands, and we all competed with that kind of music, but eventually kind of got into writing our own material. Eventually, but Birmingham was a big, especially because it's been a factory town, and people from all over the British Commonwealth came to work there in those factories during the war. So you can imagine all the music that they brought with them,
Right, yeah, no, it would definitely inspire a lot, and just being creative. So you've mastered the guitar, I would pretty much say. What attracted you to this instrument initially?
Well, first of all, I don't think anybody masters the guitar.
There's so much to it.
I mean, every time I go on YouTube, I see somebody who's fantastic. There's a lot, and the standard of playing these days from younger people is pretty good too, across the board. There's a lot more people have a lot more influences and a lot more stuff to listen to, thanks to the internet.
Yeah.
But, I started out with different styles, I mean, folk music, jazz, Django Reinhardt, a lot, Buddy Holly, Biffle, Lionel Donegan, all sorts of different styles. My sisters are all into music, so I was always listening to music all day long. And showbiz, because they were into showbiz too. And so, I was around music and back to musical theatre people, let's put it that way, all
Yeah.
the time. So, I wasn't, I was a bit of a jack of all trades in some ways. I learned a lot of different things about theatre. Guitar was just something I did as a hobby to start with. And then I decided I didn't want to work for a living, so I took it up as went professional.
So rock and roll.
That's when I realized you really do have to work for a living.
Yeah, that is true.
There's a lot of competition out there.
Yeah, that for sure, definitely. So let's talk about the Moody Blues. So Ray Thomas and Mike Pinder, some of the founding members of the Moody Blues, called you one day and asked you to form a band. Can you talk a little about that moment and how you initially met them?
Yeah. Well, Ray and Mike, up until Ray just passed away just before, but Ray and Mike were my first, shall we say, professional musicians that had been in Germany at the same time of the Beatles, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of work out there, and they were working for those American forces people. There was a lot of work out there for that reason. So Mike and Ray came back from Germany, and they basically wanted to put a band together to go back to Germany. And I had another band, which was not a professional band. I'd turned professional, but some of the guys still had jobs and that. So Bev Bevan was the only guy who would do it, and he ended up turning professional, of course, and joining with Jeff Lynne and making a lot of success with the ELO. But at that time, him and I were the only ones willing to go professional. So, cut a long story short, they came back from Germany. They asked me to go, and I said, "Fine. I just want to do something professional and go wherever." In actual fact, we didn't go to Germany. We got picked up by a couple of talent scouts and taken to London. And that's where we started our kind of recording and the first leg of success that we had.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. I just can't imagine being in that moment and getting picked up by recruiting or talent scouts.
That's what it was like.
Yeah.
The Beatles kind of made it, not easy for everyone, but they started the ball rolling with all that. And, a lot of those companies and those people who were doing the recruiting, they didn't know much about what was going on. Music, they didn't know about the music or how to run offices or recording companies in a way. We all learned together, you see.
Yeah.
It was good fun.
That is awesome. So you moved on from the Moody Blues in 1966. During that time, what were some of the struggles you faced, and why did you want to move on from the band and pursue other things?
Well, it wasn't struggle so much. We just, as far as I was concerned, we got to a point where we weren't moving up anymore.
Okay.
We kind of leveled out. And we did owe a record, or part of our contract with Decca, we did owe them an album. And I said, I think we should go and write some more songs. And they said, no, we need to stay on the road and just earn a living. Because basically what had happened is that our management ran off with all the money. That happened to a lot of people in those days.
Yeah. Wow.
So they wanted to stay working. I said no, and we parted on that situation. But, they went on to do what they did, and I went on to do the Wings thing. So it all worked out really well for everyone in the end. And again, it's all about writing your own material and being creative. That's what keeps you there, So we all came out of it pretty well, I think.
That's good that you were all able to do your own thing. And so after you moved on from the Moody Blues, you did a number of different projects, and that eventually led you to the Wings in 1971. And before that happened, when did you first meet Paul McCartney?
Well, in Birmingham, actually. I opened for them.
Oh, wow.
They were just starting out.
Yeah.
And I can't remember I'd heard Love Me Do, their first single.
Yeah.
And I opened for them. It was a revolving stage. As I came off the stage, they came on.
Wow.
And kind of all met in the dressing room. And
yeah. I love that.
Was the start of it. Yeah.
That's so
but
cool.
When we got to London with the Moody's, we all turned up at this club one night, and they were there. So we became friends from that day on, really. And,
yeah.
So So we used to have parties, and they'd play us their music, and we'd play them our music, that kind of deal. So we would go out together and see bands. Like Paul and I would go and see people, or Paul and John and George as a neighbour. So it was all one of those things. And they eventually got us in Brian Epstein as a manager.
Right.
And then we did their British tour. So that's when I knew him. So, the Wings thing was just a natural progression, really. He wanted to put a band together, and he knew me. So I think that's a big part of it, really. It's hard to work with people you don't know, especially when you're somebody like him,
Yeah.
It's hard to sort of start again. So he wanted somebody who he knew and had the same kind of experiences to a certain degree, and that was it.
Wow, that's awesome. What an experience.
And it was all about that. It was all about being... There's a whole group of people who are all friends in those days, all different bands. We all played different... Yeah, so everybody knew everybody.
Yeah, and the music alone is like such an amazing connection.
Yeah.
You can connect with so many people through music.
Right. Yeah, and so you and the McCartneys were the very core of Wings, and you worked together for 10 years. So what was it like collaborating with the McCartneys?
Well, again, Paul and I had this, camaraderie thing going, music and everything. So it was pretty easy to put stuff together. I mean, our writing process would be we'd either go out of the country somewhere different just to get a new lease of life, or
cool.
We recorded in different countries, things like that.
Yeah.
The writing process just came from our environment. And Linda was just tagging along really as a photographer to start with. But
Right, yeah, she was a music journalist. Yeah.
But she got into it eventually, and the vocals became part of the signature sound, which is, even Michael Jackson commented on the Wings harmonies. And so it was all that. And as I say, we had different people come along. I found a few of the people, actually, from different lineups. But it was mainly because me and him were pretty good friends from the off that I stayed that long.
Yeah. One of my favorite Wings performances, me and my family always watch it whenever it's on TV, but it's during the Wings Over America tour from 1976. And you cover the song Richard Cory, and Paul McCartney does backing vocals, and you guys are all sitting down playing the guitar. It's really intimate. And I'm just curious of why you chose to cover that song by Simon and Garfunkel and what it means to you, because that's like my favorite song of the entire performance. And I think that's the only song you cover during that performance. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, I didn't know it at the time, but Richard Cory is one of those songs that actually wasn't written by Paul Simon, which I thought it was originally.
Yeah, wasn't it a poem?
It was a poem, yeah. And I was in London just before I joined Wings. I had this band called Electric String Band, and I was staying at this studio, and it was owned by this guy his girlfriend was a folk singer. So I was around folk people quite a lot. Paul Simon came in one day, and they were all sitting around in the lounge, and he started singing this song.
Wow.
Well, that's a cool song. So I kind of picked up on it.
Yeah.
And then when Paul said to me, do an acoustic set, he said, you got any ideas of what you want to do? So I said, well, what about this? And he said, that's a good song, leave it in.
Yeah.
But, I found out later that Paul didn't write it, and I thought he did. But, so it's kind of stuck,
Yeah, it's awesome. I love that performance. You covering or performing that song. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
So
we'll be doing that this show, I think.
Oh, really? I'm so excited.
that's awesome.